Good evening. And thank you, Amy. And thank you, Judy, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Eric has told me about this meeting for a number of years, and so I'm happy to be able to visit and join you this time. I just want to share with you, I was asked to share ideas for what's needed to succeed in graduate school. And as I was thinking, I thought about the things that I'm going to share with you tonight are not just applicable to graduate school, but they're also applicable in life in general. So I'm going to dive in. I have 4 quick points I was already told by people at my table who shall remain nameless, that the sooner I finish, the sooner they can leave and go do some other things. So I will try not to keep you long, but I was also told that I could open up for question and answers at the end, which I would love to do, and to learn a bit more about you all and answer any questions you might have. So 4 things needed to succeed in graduate school, and again, just in life in general. I call them my 4 P's: planning, preparation, perseverance, and people. Planning, preparation, perseverance, and people. So we'll start with planning. When you set out to do anything, you should have a plan. I always tell people to begin with the end in mind. I say it when you're thinking about giving a presentation, when you're thinking about what your next step on your journey is, and when I say the end, when we're talking about your journey, keep realizing that it's more of milestones than endpoints. But begin with the end in mind. Think about where you're trying to go and have an idea of how you're going to get there. Now, understand you're at different stages right now in your undergraduate careers, and you might not have a clear picture. When I was in my sophomore year, I was in mechanical engineering and thought that, man, this static stuff is cool. I loved it. I'm so glad I chose mechanical engineering. And I was, by the way, in this man's class. I'm sorry, I'm telling your age. Didn't mean that. But I went to, and I ended up talking to one of my civil engineering professors, Huey Lawson at the time, and he said, well, I hate to break it to you, but static is more civil. And I was like, well, you're just trying to get me to change my major, so whatever. And so he took me to his office, and he's a structural engineer, and so he showed me some projects he was working on, and I was like, yeah, that's civil engineering, all right. And I changed my major to civil engineering. Also, while in this gentleman's class, I decided, because I would have study groups all the time at my house. Tried to get him to come to a couple to give us a leg up, but it didn't work. But I found myself in a position where I was able to explain things to my classmates, and I could see the light bulbs go off. And right then it ignited a spark in me to become a professor. And that's when my plan kind of started. So I was going to be this structural engineering professor because this was just the coolest thing. And then when I got to my senior year, I needed some elective courses. The only things that fit my schedule were environmental courses. I took those environmental courses and said, wow, well, this is pretty cool. And guess what? I'm an environmental engineer. But again, I have the plan, so I know I'm going to finish this degree. Ultimately, I'm going to become this professor. But I was flexible enough to kind of change along the way. I wasn't so stuck rigidly into becoming that structural engineer, or what I thought before was that mechanical engineer, that I couldn't change courses. And so that's what I encourage you. Develop your plan. Write it down. I mean, I know I loved when I had my curriculum in front of me as an undergraduate, when I could check off the classes at the end of the semester and put the grades in and see the sheets fill up, that made me feel like I was getting some traction, making some progress. I still do that today. My most productive days start with a checklist and end with at least one thing done. But so start with your plan, and remember in your planning to have flexibility. And that flexibility allows for you to navigate through these different crooks and turns that you'll find that life will take you through. So the second thing really aligned with that is preparing. Preparation is so critical. If you're going to accomplish anything in life, you have to put in the work. And as you know, as engineering students that are advanced in your degrees for the most part, it takes a lot of work. So you've heard the saying before, anything worth having is worth working for. And if something comes too easily, it's probably not worth very much. And we could take that in a different direction, but I won't go there today. But that is true. My mom always says this to me, and she still says this now: you get what you pay for, and you pay for what you get. So you'll find that the things that have the most value to you in life are the things that you have some skin in the game for. You've put in some sweat equity, and sometimes it's blood, sweat, and tears, but you treasure it and you value it so much more. And what that preparation does is it helps you it equips you to be ready for opportunities that may present themselves, opportunities that right now may not even exist, or opportunities that exist but you don't know that they exist. And so when you're thinking of equipping yourselves, think about putting things that you need in your toolbox, having your toolbox as ready to go as possible. I remember one night after church, somebody had something break down, and someone needed a particular tool. What the puzzling thing to me was that nobody had any tools except me. I always have tools. And so it's like, whatever tool you need, just look in that little orange bag in the back of my car, and you'll find it. And so you want to have the tools because you don't know what you're going to need in the future. One of my favorite tools is my Mr. Seven Hands. Has anybody ever heard of Mr. Seven Hands? It's a tool now. Don't take this in another direction. But it's a screwdriver, basically, that has 7 hands on it. So any kind of screwdriver and any size you need, you basically have it covered in that one tool. And that's how I'd like you to think of yourselves as you're getting this preparation. What are those tools that you can put in your degree, in your tool belt along with your degree to help make you marketable as a graduate school candidate, or as an employee, or as an entrepreneur, or whatever your path ends up being. So think of things in terms of lifelong learning. Look for every opportunity you can get to gather more knowledge and to be able to use it. I was thinking earlier of the steps that I took. When I got my PhD, everybody calls that a terminal degree. And I really hate thinking of it in that way, because it makes it sound like you don't need to know anything else. After you get this, that's it. I decided I wanted to have an education consulting company, and I went and got a graduate certificate in education research methodology. It's one of my tools in my toolkit. Every time I see a professional development opportunity come along that has something to do with sustainable design, which is my area within environmental engineering, or even communication, those types of things end up being more tools in my tool belt. Amy mentioned that I am a program evaluator for ABET, which is accreditation board. That was one of those opportunities that was kind of beyond my vision, my line of vision, when, excuse me, someone suggested it to me. I went and did the training, became a PEV, and what that ended up doing was, when I fast forward a few years, there's a job announcement for an associate dean at Rice that they wanted to be a PEV for ABET. Had I not gone and taken advantage of that opportunity, I wouldn't have had that tool in my tool belt, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here in this position that I'm in now. So don't think so narrowly when you think about your plan and as you're preparing. Grab all the tools you can along the way, and they'll benefit you. So think of it as lifelong learning. Think of it as continuous improvement, how you can go about improving yourself. And the other thing is, when you're trying to decide on what those tools should be, I always advise people to talk to someone who's doing what you think you might want to do. If you can talk to that person and find out how they got to where they are, what would they do differently if they could do it differently? You know, what steps did they take that were right? And so get a sense of that from that individual. If it's someone you can't reach, the web is a wonderful tool. Get online. If it's someone within a company or within a university, get online, look for their bios, look for their CVs, find out things about them. If you're looking at a particular graduate school or you're looking at becoming a professor at a particular university, go look at the people. Look at where they got their degrees from and apply to those schools, because people are creatures of habit. They tend to kind of go back to the same places. So if they are getting their professors from programs at these institutions and you want to work here, you probably need to be working towards getting into these institutions. Now you see some flexibility in that, but by and large, people are creatures of habit. So do the research and figure out what you need in terms of your tool belt, in terms of your path. And then the next thing is perseverance. Overcoming obstacles is critical to success. Sometimes I think we back away from challenges out of fear of failure. And I encourage you not to do that, because we can learn a lot from failures, and others can learn a lot from our failures as well. But don't be afraid to face challenges that seem to be insurmountable. It's up to you to decide when you face a challenge or you face an obstacle, is this going to be a hurdle or is it a barrier? And that's your choice. A hurdle, anybody run track in here? Okay, so hurdles are designed to be overcome. Do you win the race if you run around them? Okay, what's that? But the hurdles are intended to be overcome. Something that's a barrier, and I give the example, especially if I'm on my mobility scooter and I come up to a curb that's 4 inches tall, my scooter has a 2-inch clearance. If there's no curb cut out, I cannot get onto that sidewalk. That is a barrier. It's stopping me from progressing. And most of the challenges we face, I won't say all, but most of the challenges we face, I believe we have the decision about whether that challenge becomes a hurdle to us or it becomes a barrier. So pay attention to those things and try to figure out how to make it a hurdle that you overcome. You know, some things are roadblocks, some things are just detours. You know what, didn't work out this way. GPS is rerouting. We're going to go. It's Houston traffic. You're on I-59 trying to get to the airport. I'm sorry. You have to reroute. You can't go 59. You got to go 610. So be prepared to reroute when you can. And then the other thing is, the last thing, and not the least important by any means, people. You need people in your life who are champions and who are mentors. And I'm so happy that I had those people in my life very early. And again, 2 of them are sitting at this table. One, I'm going to describe a role they played that they probably don't even know about. They were one of those kind of secondhand mentors when they didn't even realize it. But Dr. Edgar Blevins, when I was a freshman in college, first of all, my original plan was to major in music and foreign languages. My mom convinced me to major in engineering. She saw potential in me that I did not see in myself, and I'm glad she did. She never forced me to do it, but she said, hey, I think you're selling yourself short. Try it. If you don't like it, change your major. That's what she told me. So I think she was kind of using a little psychology on me in retrospect, because she knows once I start something, I am going to finish it. And I remember my freshman year going into Dr. Blevins' office and crying because, oh, I have this C in calculus and the world is coming to an end. I cannot do this engineering stuff. And I was boo-hooing. When I came to his office, he just started handing me the Kleenex and said, look, I have a class to go to, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want. Here's the Kleenex. But he never discouraged me. He never said, well, maybe you should think about changing your major. He always said, well, look, pointed me to resources, told me, wait till next semester. He was always pointing to next semester. Next semester will be better. And guess what? It was. It got better. And I'm thankful for that kind of encouragement and that kind of push, that kind of cheerleading that pushes you on. And you need that in your life. And it may not be a professor. It may be a sibling. It may be a parent. It may be a friend. But you should have that in your life. The other example I want to give you is during my master's program. When I started my master's program, I didn't know what to do. I knew I needed to take these classes and at some point do a thesis, which I really didn't have a good idea of what that was either. And my advisor, I'm on camera, was not as hands-on as I would have liked. I think I said that well. But I had a colleague who was working on a dual degree, and she had Dr. Judy Perkins for an advisor. So guess what, Dr. Judy Perkins? You mentored me through my master's degree, and I don't even think you knew it, because everything that you would tell Tamiko, she would come and explain to me, this is how you do a thesis proposal. This is what you do for this. This is how you set up a research plan. And so she was a peer, but she was that mentor. The mentor just kind of, so the champion is kind of that cheerleader that's behind you, that's pushing you and driving you. The mentor is that person who can help shepherd you through the process. And so you need both of those sorts of people in your life. My mom is my hugest champion. She still is today. But she can't mentor me through the things that I go through because she hasn't experienced those things. But your peers, your faculty members, and those folks can. And so, and the other example of a cheerleader, even in my old age now, as an engineering professional, Dr. Jones. He will talk to me about things, or I'll hear him say something, or he'll communicate something to someone about me, and I'm like, wow, that whoever he's talking about, that's a pretty cool person, you know. But he's that cheerleader pushing me to say, you know, you don't see this in yourself still, but I see this in you, and I think you should, and then fill in the blank. And so don't think of it as because I'm a student, I need this. As a professional, I still benefit from those relationships in my life. So that's kind of an ongoing thing. And the other side of the coin, on the people side of things, is you want to be a champion and a mentor to others, because that's where you will really get some fulfillment. And so don't just say, well, I have mine, I'm good, I'm going on. Make sure you're working to help pull other folks along with you. How many of you saw the movie Hidden Figures? Okay, the thing that stood out to me most, other than Taraji P. Henson having to run to the bathroom in the rain and getting fussed at for not being at her desk, but when, what's her name? Octavia Spencer's character, when she decided, I'm going to learn how to program this computer, she didn't say, well, look, I'm going to take care of me. She said, come on, ladies, let's do this. And that's how we have to be with each other. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Let's get this. And give yourselves those steps up. So I will leave you with that, and I will take questions and answers. So the 4 P's. What's the first one? Planning. The second one? Preparation. The third one? And the fourth one? People. So please take all 4 of those with you on your journey. Thank you.